Hello, welcome back, everybody, to another year of the Sunday Podcast.
I'm Oli Lum.
And I'm Matt Seddon.
Back in 2025 for our 5th season. You can expect more of this.
He's claiming that he was ill before the semi-final, whatever. But, you know, I just feel like at that point he was just looking for attention.
And some of this.
You normally say, no human is limited. So I can't limit myself, or I can't just say I can do.
As well as event coverage around all the major races on the UK circuit.
And if you're a fan of the pod, please give us a rating and review on your preferred podcast streaming service.
And if you want to stay up to date with all the latest news, give us a follow on Instagram at Sunday Podcast.
As always, thanks for listening. See you next time. And we hope you enjoyed the episode.
Okay, welcome back, guys. As you can see from the title today, Mr. Andy Hobdell joined by Rory Leonard of Team Makou, the Hoka team, obviously based out of London, that you all know. On the podcast this week, we did promise you guys George Cootie, but couldn't say no to that British record at Valencia, could we, mate?
Yeah, a bit of a balls up our end, to be honest. But I think Cootie is a great podcast in the pipeline. So you listen to him the week that have to listen to him the following weekend. I thought we'd get in there quick with Rory and Hobdell. And we actually, we spoke to both of them ages ago, actually, and a lot's changed since. Rory is very much like a good junior / under 23, and it was just starting to, I guess, break into the senior ranks, but we're still a bit off. And Hobdell, you know, I think we asked him this question, didn't we? Like, has coaching this group kind of reignited his passion and kind of, I guess, reconnected his coaching journey to a high level? And I think it's, you know, his answer was it certainly has.
Yeah, for sure, man. Obviously, you mentioned he kind of started a similar journey back in 2004 with obviously previous athletes he had, and he managed to take them to 2012. Yeah, I think he was, from what Andy talks about, he was almost close to kind of coaching retirement, and who could blame him from the career he'd had previously? But now he's ready to take these new guys. So obviously Rory Leonard, and then the likes of Ellis Cross, Callum Elson, and the likes of that onto the next level, you know.
It's big. I mean, and I guess Hobdell and Rory, you could compare them if you're looking at the OAC in America to Joe Klecker and Dave Ritzenheim. Some people would murder me for that comparison. I'm sure Rory and Hobdell will take it. They'll be happy with that. But they're almost the ones who kind of kick-started, and obviously, Hoka themselves and Chris Rainsford, I know, was played a large role in starting this UK-based group and then recruiting others. How far that recruitment will go, we'll find out. And as well, where this group will go, at the moment, they're pretty much top in Britain. Can they start to tap into the global scene and certainly the European scene? And what impact can they actually have on a global level? And we'll find that out as well over the next couple years. So I think it's exciting. Mm. It's very much building momentum at the moment. And so it's going to be a big couple years for them. And again, to sort of have that excitement around them in a new Olympic cycle, I think is cool. And we're certainly going to see a lot more new faces this Olympic cycle, and George Cootie certainly being one of them.
Yeah, for sure. And just before we get into that episode, Rory did hint at some point the marathon might be on. Obviously, we spoke to him, like you said, Matt, a couple of years ago, and he was looking that way. Looks like for now, obviously, after that blistering 10K on the weekend, that he's going to stick to the short stuff for now. But look, we kind of said to him, is the double on? Is the 10K marathon on at some point? He wasn't wasn't saying that is going to happen, but I think it's something we can see him doing, right? He's that sort of strength athlete, but on that, obviously, London Marathon fields are out, and I think we say this every year, mate, but it is staggering how they managed to put together such a quality field, right?
No, yeah. This actually is the best by far, and Hugh Brasher and the team always say this, and they always say it's a mega field, and but actually, I think a lot of times at London they've had mega fields, but some of the athletes have been not has-beens, but a little bit past their best, and they're mega names, but are they in their prime in marathon running right now? And I think like a Bakili is just like a classic example of that. They've managed to get him back quite a few years on the mounts. However, you've got 5, 6, and we'll obviously talk in a lot more detail pre-London in the coming months, but actually more than that, you've got 10 guys who are in their absolute prime, plus guys who are said today. Jacob Kiplimo set to debut. What can he do? I mean, he had a great battle with Sebastian Sawe in the half marathon in Copenhagen. Sawe goes on to run 2:02:05 in Valencia. We know Kiplimo is a stupidly good talent. So his debut, you're kind of like, that'll, will it go one or two ways? Will it be a chapter guy? Yeah. And he pops a little bit, or will it be something special and we see him run the kind of low 2:02s in that sort of ballpark? But on top of Sawe, you got Tola, the Olympic champ. You got the Berlin champ, Megesha, last year's champ, Matuso, Abdi Nagy as well. Two-time Olympic medalist. It's just ridiculous. And then further down, I think we've always found London have struggled on the men's side. Is there tends to be that gap. I mean, Emil was third last year, and he ran a lot of it. This, I wonder if they've tried to get in as many of these guys as possible for the Brits, because you've got people like Yamani Cripper, Andrew Buchanan, the Aussie, Sondre Moen, Amanal Petros, these guys who are 2:05, 2:06, 2:04 runners. And that is going to be very exciting for the Brits, because, they're going to be able to have a bit more of a pack for a lot longer, you hope.
Yeah, it is. And of course, the British field is always super strong, but this year, particularly exciting. You mentioned, obviously, Emil's in there, definitely our number one marathoner, but it's also the guys debuting, the likes of Jack Rowe, the likes of Alex Yee, stepping over from triathlon for a bit, which I know a lot of people are excited about. How are those guys going to go? Because, I mean, for Yee, it's a bit of a free hit, right? He can have some fun with it. We expect him to run pretty well, but the guy's an Olympic champ already in triathlon, so there's almost no pressure there. Whereas Jack Rowe, he's got so close to making the team last year on the track. Going to London Marathon is saying, I'm putting the eggs in that basket. Like, obviously, there's a chance that, it's early enough that you could come back and run some serious times, but it's a completely different preparation, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because for people like Rowe and potentially even Yee, I think this London, yes, it's a debut, but there's so much less stress on it. For example, Mark Scott, who was debuting last year, it was all about, can you qualify for the Olympics? Whereas this is in a new cycle. I very much think we're still going to see Yee on the triathlon over the next 18 to 2 years. And we're definitely going to see Rowe run on the track over the 10,000, over the 5,000 over the next couple of years as well. So it's almost like, I mean, I was watching a thing with Ritzenheim, the other day, and he was like, if you want to compete in LA in 2028, you've really only got 6 attempts. Because, you've got a couple, you've got your debut, then you've got a few races. And then, of course, 2 years goes by and you're starting to think about, you've got to get that qualifying time, and then you've got to prepare for your trials. And so they haven't got many chances. And so they're just ticking the box of getting their debut off. And I think depending on how it goes, I mean, Yee is going to be an interesting one, because if that goes really well, it would be very cool to see him attack LA in the marathon. Like, that would be, I'm not sure that's ever been done before. I don't know. I'm not that clued up on triathlon.
No, I mean, Gwen Jorgensen tried, right? Didn't she? When she went to Bama Track Club post being a world champ, an Olympic champ. In the try, and really struggled, and that was going to, at a time, this was like peak Bauman's as well, right? It wasn't just going anywhere. It would be the equivalent of Yee going to NN now.
She was a good example of going all in on running, didn't work out. She got injured a lot, and she just didn't really improve. And then, to the point where I think she gave it maybe 4 years and then went back to triathlon. And so, hopefully we can catch up with Yee, in the next couple months or so, and see actually what training he's doing. Is he committing a lot more of his time to running just to build that conditioning? And hopefully he doesn't fall apart in those last stages. But it won't be an easy transition. There's a reason why not many people have done it, but it would be groundbreaking if he did. I can't believe we're talking about LA already. We've only just had Paris. But, if he starts to run in that
That's the way the sport works, right? That's the way the sport works.
But, you look at his 10K and what he could do on the roads in the 10K, and it's strong enough to think, he could, he's definitely at a level where he could go run 2.9. 2.8, something
Absolutely.
like that. I mean, he's matching Sessman over a 10K. But Jack Rowe's debut, that's obviously going to be anticipated, and there's going to be a lot of hype around that. And obviously Mark Scott as well, not his debut, but I feel like, this is going to be a serious crack at the marathon for Mark Scott, and he's someone who wants to build. So, Brits, Mohammed obviously going again. So the Brit lineup is amazing, but also the international field a little bit further down. just providing a little bit more depth, which I think is terrific. And then on the women's side as well, by the way, I mean, the field is just, I mean, to have Hassan Asefa and Ruth Chepngetich, 2.9, 2.11, 2.13, and obviously Hassan is probably due a lot quicker than 2.13, to have those three in the same race at the same time. I mean, hell, these poor other major city marathons, I don't know how London have actually pulled this off.
Yeah. And that's always been the issue, right? We've always talked about how great marathon season is in that we get almost, it feels like we get loads and loads and loads in the short space of time. But I think we said last year and the year before during that sort of March, April period, they were like, if we could have had these start lines combined, what sort of crazy times and crazy races would we have seen?
And we have now. I think, Helen O'Beary is doing Boston, and obviously that's a big name, and they haven't managed to bring her over. But, that's kind of like the only name that would be missing from this list. I mean, it's just, they really have. They're going to, Boston's 6 days before, isn't it? Usually on a Monday, London on a Sunday. I mean, people are going to gloss over that. And all eyes are going to be on London. And that's exactly what the meet organisers will want. British debut, Eilish McColgan. I mean, it'll be cool to see how she goes, and it's almost like she's been very, very good on the track, but Eilish is calling. You just always think, it was always going to be the marathon. So, but whether she can be healthy enough and get the work in order to really crush it, we'll find out. Yeah. She's another one. You're looking at that 2028 Olympic cycle going. She wants to be in LA in the marathon, and she wants to be placing well in LA too.
And that's the thing with Eilish. This debut's been a long time coming, and I think everyone going into what had been London 2 years ago when she was due to debut, everyone was thinking, wow, she's going to smash 2:20, right? Mm-hmm. Now there's question marks. Now we're like, we don't know what Eilish we're going to get. And I think everyone's obviously hoping we can see the best version of Eilish, but it's been a long time since she's been consistently competing at our world-class level.
Yeah, and she's getting back there. Like, she actually, I think we missed it on our roundup the other day, but she ran a good 10K, 31, just over 31 minutes the other day. So she always finds these like niche races. And so she's starting to move well. She's starting to get back to her best, and she's got, an athlete of her caliber, plenty of time to get it right for London and just have a successful debut. I think the biggest thing for her will just be completing the distance and learning from it. But yeah, and obviously, Purdue, Philly Bowden, Lucy Reed, they're all set to line up as well. So some good depth on the women's side among the Brits. And yeah, and obviously I wonder how many will start to announce that they want to go to Tokyo, the World Championships in the marathon. Because I kind of look at it and I'm not really sure anyone does. I don't know. We'll see. It would be cool if Emil or someone like that commit to it and try to get after a world title.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends how well it goes, right? And this is what you mean about the attempts, because you're talking of attempts, by committing to a world champs marathon, you're almost saying, well, there's one of my runs gone. But if you absolutely pop at London, I don't mean pop, sorry, I mean like pop off in a good way, right? If you have a really good run at London, you can then just think, okay, well, actually, that's probably quick enough for this year, and I can go all in on getting a good place in Tokyo. And then I know that probably next year after, I'm going to be in a good place, more experience, and I can chase another PB. But if your run in London doesn't go so well, why would you go to Tokyo when then you could go to Valencia, say, later in the year and have another crack at a good time?
Yeah, well, I think, look, the qualifying standard is obviously difficult enough to hit as it is. But if you are someone who does hit the qualifying standard, I think, Hawkins did it, didn't he? And I guess it didn't quite pay off. We always thought we were going to see something more, but I do think getting experience at major championships in the marathon is quite crucial, like the heat and stuff. Like LA is going to be, it's going to be very hot. And, you're not going to have the chance in 2026. And in 2027, that's the one for a World Championship marathon. You're thinking, maybe that might be a little bit too close. I just want to focus purely on my preparation for the Olympics. So haven't got that many chances of a championship marathon. So we'll see.
And that's it. And also, like, as much as it's great that athletes are thinking 4 years, planning long term, if you're in good shape now, make the most of it and go get a medal if you can. You know, who knows where they're going to be in 3 years' time, 4 years' time.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, some serious fields at London. They've done extremely well to put all this together, and we couldn't be more buzzing to watch that unfold. But yeah, that's it. Let's get into the episode with Rory and Hobdell. Obviously, there's going to be some races, so we'll be back with another weekend roundup on Monday, Tuesday. There's going to be some good BMC fields. Look pretty good actually. Men's 3000 looks hot. 1500, 800s as well. Innes might get that European qualifying time indoors. So yeah, there should be some good results coming out of Sheffield and elsewhere as well.
Yeah, enjoy the episode, guys. We'll catch you very soon. Okay, Rory, Andy, thanks for joining us. Welcome back to both of you, first of all. How have you been the past kind of couple weeks? Because big week, especially for Rory, I guess, over the weekend.
Yeah, things have been nice over the last couple of weeks. I headed out to Valencia like 10 days before the race, actually. So I completely missed that cold front, and I've come back to actually pretty solid weather here. Yeah, obviously, race went all right at the weekend. Took Mo's record, which I'm quite happy about. And yeah, it's been great. And again, as you guys were just saying, a lot has changed since I last spoke to you guys, which is great. And yeah, no, I'm in a good spot,
mate. I'm intrigued. Was the race difficult to execute? I think obviously there were quite a lot of you were quite vocal about attacking that record. Yeah, it was kind of a low hanging fruit record, wasn't it? And you said it was only a matter of time. But yeah, was it difficult to execute? Andy, you can hop in after. But, what advice did you give him? Because going into Valencia, was it just fairly straightforward?
Well, Rory, I mean, did we really talk much about the race? It was all about the training and preparation into the race through Christmas and New Year. Most people were going out for a few beers New Year's Eve, and Rory had a nice double day. Was it 20, 25 miles in a day? So really, it wasn't really a question of, when you get to Rory's level standard, you don't talk about you will run the race like this. He knows by the time he gets to the start line, he's prepared and he's itching to go out and race. He knows what he's got to do. So those days of kind of youth of athletics, dealing with juniors and youngsters, of asking them how to run a race, is different when you get to world class. And with Rory, he knows exactly what he needs to do. And thankfully, we had some really good training into the race. So he was good to go. So he just had to go out and execute, which was perfect.
Rory, yourself, did you have an idea of like split times or anything like that? Or was it simply, I'm going to get on this train that I know is going to be quick and I know is going to be there or thereabouts, and then just see how I feel?
Yeah, I think it was purely effort. I think like the week building in, I was like, you've probably got to go through in about 13:45 to 13:50, but that's a wide enough window. It doesn't matter where around you are. You might close harder. You might close a little bit slower. So yeah, it was mainly what we spoke about was being in the right pack. And I know who the right pack is going to be. Like, I know the guys who I'm racing. I know who should be there, who shouldn't be there, and who will be there for the full 10K and who won't be. We actually got to the race that morning and realized that there was a bit of a headwind, and it was going to be a headwind going up the kind of longer straight, I think from like 3K to maybe 6K. And so then you realize, well, depending on how the first 5K goes out, like, you might have to bank some time. It could be a little bit slower than anticipated with that bit of a headwind. And so, yeah, I think I went through in about 13:45-ish, 13:44. And I was like, right, okay. It actually dropped the stress levels off me by 5K, because my thing then was just, you're going to close in faster than 14 flat. So just do something like that or quicker and beat the rest of the Brits kind of thing. But I found myself in a really nice group. I had Nordas, who was shooting for the Norwegian record. So he couldn't let the pace drop because he really wanted to get that day. And so kind of could tuck in behind him and a few other guys on that straight. And then also once we kind of came across the bridge and we were sort of coming home for the last kind of 3K, we were just trading off really because, we both needed to keep those gaps open. I wasn't sure how safe I was in terms of who was still in the race and who wasn't in the race behind me. And so it was just kind of, pushing on those last few Ks, making sure that I was safe. And I'm sure, as you guys know, you turn right on that course in Valencia into the finish line, and it's so far. Like, it's so far. So I was like, right, okay, cool. turn right. Okay, just try and hold form. Like, don't do anything silly because it's a long old way from here. And then with about 200 meters to go, Nordas put the burners on and like put me away. And yeah, about 50 meters to go, then you can actually kind of see the clock and you know that you're pretty much safe.
Were you aware of other Brits, mate? You talk about that group you were in. I think Jack was in there for a while, wasn't he? Mark was in there, Zach Mohammed, those guys. But it was physical. When I was watching it, I mean, Hobdell, you must have been heart and mouth a few moments. There was quite a few shoulder barges and stuff going on in that top group for a good 3K. But yeah, were you aware of those Brits? And at what point did you know, if you would have crossed the line, the record was going to be yours?
Yeah, definitely aware of the Brits because there was some amazing guys in there. I'd spent the full week with Jack going into that race, and I knew that he was going to be in kind of good nick. Mark Scott is Mark Scott, like that. That's a name who you can never write off ever because of what he's achieved in the sport. And then you've got loads of other guys too who are in good shape. You might not know how Zach Mohammed, what sort of shape he's in. Obviously, Charlie popped out an amazing performance, and he can be an unknown quantity, which I think is like a superpower of his. And yeah, so I was aware of who was in there. I knew who I needed to beat, but again, because of the training that I've put in and under Andy's guidance, I was like super confident on the day. I wasn't particularly worried about many other people. I genuinely thought that I was going to get that record. I really did believe that I was going to be first over the line. But it was physical. Like at 3K, someone hit the deck hard in front of Jack, and we were all kind of diving out of the way. Start line was pretty physical, as I've heard it is every year at Valencia. But yeah, no, it was good. I didn't end up going around Jack until about 3 or 4K, and obviously, Jack didn't have the day that he would have wanted. But he's got exciting things coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's fair to say a pretty breakout performance for both you and the group. Obviously, you've had that great run at Eurocross as well, which predicted this. But I think when, like we said, kind of off air, when you start talking about taking things off Mo Farah, everyone starts to kind of sit up and listen a bit, don't they? We just want to chat a bit about the group itself and the past year or so, because this type of performance has been coming. But I guess it started really, Team Makou, with the two of you, right?
I would say so. I'll let Andy go into his way that the group kind of formed from his end.
Well, I think it's just been a natural process, I think, from the beginning. We were very lucky. Chris Rainsford approached me quite some time ago from Hoka to become involved with Hoka as a coach. And he had talent spotted Rory, Scott Beattie, coming back, who at that time didn't have coaches, as regards whether they would be interested in being coached by me. And so, Rory, we had that type of conversation, didn't we, when you first came back? And we had those types of discussions as regards whether you would want to step into the madness, which was quite interesting. And I think, hopefully, Rory, you agree that it was really kind of a natural process from there as regards others becoming involved and training together. And the group really forming quite naturally. It wasn't kind of, as we've discussed before, Rory, where you would have some brands will just get 10 elite athletes and say, right, get on with it, be a group. We've naturally evolved as a group and then into a team. And the chemistry is just the best. It really is a team, a squad that very much wants to achieve and work together. I mean, Matt, Oli, you would have noticed that fairly early doors, I think, when the guys came back from Flagstaff, when we did the 5K the week after coming back, and you saw that Scott did his best mate a favour by pacing him through to 4K. I mean, how many groups get that? And the boys and girls are very much happy to sacrifice some of their race to help others to perform and get times. And that's just how we've evolved, I would say. And it's a natural thing, but a very good thing. And it's an environment which is conducive to achieving things. And that's what you want.
I think, Andy, I'm going to ask you this first, but as a coach, has this group kind of reignited your coaching passion? Like, I know you've always coached, but was this what you needed to really, I guess, step your game up as a coach and really enjoy it and get really passionate about it again? And I think with Rory and Scott and stuff, it's clear that that's happened for them as athletes being a part of this group, but has it happened for you as well?
Well, I mean, I'm the old boy in the team, the embarrassing dad. And, I had it the first time round with Badders, Skinner, Draper, Katrina Wooten, Emily Pigeon. I worked with those people from 2004 through to 2012, when I would be honest enough to say that I pretty much drifted away after 2012 to focus on the marathon with the likes of Kevin Seaward, Paul Pollock. And yeah, you know, I make the joke that these guys bought me out of retirement. You know, I was just taking life a little bit easy with development, which is quite nice. And to come back in with these guys who are and have aspirations to be world class is an absolute joy. To use a lot of my experiences from the first time round to work with them. They're hungry, they're keen, they're supremely talented. So for me as a coach, it's a joy. So yeah, I'll be honest enough to say, Matt, that yeah, they have. And my wife at the weekend was only just saying, when she came out to Valencia and we had a meal afterwards, and she said, you know, I can see how much you're loving this, and they're such a great bunch, and I can see that there's so much more to come. And it's nice to get that, you know, because that's exactly how it is. We're working hard, the guys are working hard, and we're 100% committed to what's to come.
Yeah. And Andy, you mentioned the chemistry between the guys, but Rory, what about the chemistry of Andy? Because all the stuff you guys put out, he's clearly very much part of the team, not just overseeing the team, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's another bonus that we have with the team chemistry. And like Andy said, it's not like a lot of brands where, you know, they find 10 uncontracted, talented athletes, throw them together and hope for the best. It was very much, we all gradually met each other and got to know each other and became like really comfortable with each other. We all very like personal relationships inside the team as well. And so, yeah, we're lucky because we get all of Andy's years of expertise, and then we also get his golden personality too, right? Like that's also the winner. So Andy makes us laugh as much as we make him laugh. We'd like to think it's a nice all-round relationship, and it's not like, you know, just business kind of thing. Yeah, we do float between the two.
I mean, I'm just going to say, look, Matt, Oli, you guys know that, you know, as athletes and then also as coaches, that you need to have the right dynamics. And look, you need guys to go out and train hard and commit in training, but also to have, look, world-class athletics is not easy. You know, if you want to get to the Olympics, if you want to be the best that you can be, there has to be an off valve which allows you to just decompress. And what I see with the guys in the group and the team is that ability to decompress after training is almost like their superpower. It's the joy to see. You know, you would have seen on some of the YouTube clips and stuff that have been put out, you know, things sometimes can go a little bit awry in training, and we introduced the yellow card system, as Ellis was very vocal about, you know, and it's a very easy way of just calming a situation within a session. But then the banter after just continues, and you need that to achieve at the highest levels. You need the commitment, but you need that ability to just alleviate that stress and pressure. Otherwise, you're going to crack, you know, and the guys have got that in spades, and it's a joy to see. But yeah, the chemistry for me, to experience it as an old timer and be part of what they're doing, is a joy.
I mean, that's literally what I was going to say. From the outside, it looks like you've got that perfect mix. And I guess right now that is one of your strengths. The fact that, I guess, you know, Rory and Scott, you always put them in the same bracket. They're the two, you know, dogs of the group. Callum's the miler and Crossy's the joker, and the workhorse, and Ephraim is like that guy who's driving training, and you got Sarah. So you have a lovely mix. I mean, is the group at its peak then? I mean, are you, you know, I know there was rumors about maybe, you know, opening up and getting some more people in pre-Christmas, but, you know, right now, is that enough to focus on throughout the year of 2025, or are you always looking to add?
I mean, Rory would probably agree. So we have Team Makou, and then we also have Friends of Makou.
Are we friends of Makou? Are we friends of Team Makou?
Well, yeah, you guys definitely are friends of Makou. But Rory, I mean, that's how we are. I would say, as a team and as a group of individuals, we're very open. Matt, Oli, you know us. You know, we're those types of guys. We're very open, and you know, in training sessions, we've had numerous people involved within our training sessions. You know, it's not a closed shop, and it's evolving, I think, is the word you're looking for. And there's no rush, but it is evolving, and you'll experience that, I think, over the next 12 months as regards how the group expands and evolves. It's certainly in its early stages, and it's something which we're in no rush. The work is being done, and everything else will evolve as it does when it happens. I mean, Rory, you might want to expand on that, but that's how it is, isn't it?
Yeah, and obviously we tap into Hoka Europe too, and the athletes that we have in there. And so when we go on camps and stuff, we always have a lot of the other guys from Hoka EU. We have like Maël Goyet, who was, even like 332, went to the Olympics this year. And so we do have all of these people who kind of come in and out and stuff, and they're welcome in London. They're welcome to come here and train with us. And so, yeah, we kind of get the best of both worlds, where obviously day to day we have the group that we have, and we know that. And chemistry is so important that, whoever you welcome into the team, like it has to be the right move. And I suppose that is why we have like, the Friends of Makou thing, right? Like the people who kind of live around this area who are in Teddington, and we do get kind of different people hopping in and out sometimes. And it's nice that we can do that, because we also don't want to seem like we're a closed off group. I don't think that does well for anyone. I think, like being open with like the community here as well. And, you're seeing people in Bushy Park every day, seeing different groups every day. And so, yeah, you want to be a part of it. You're not above it. You're like with it, kind of thing.
A perfect example of that is like with Simon Bedard as well, another French athlete. If you were in Teddington, you'd see Rory doing runs with numerous people. We're all working together and enjoying our sport, enjoying our training to get the end results. So, yeah, Matt is expanding and it's evolving, but as I say, the work has to be done.
You mentioned being open in that sense, but I think you also alluded to the YouTube videos and I guess the social media presence. Obviously, with someone like Callum, that's always going to be the case. How's that been for you, Andy? Because you mentioned kind of you had a first time round at it. The life as a professional athlete is completely different now in terms of those sorts of responsibilities and being open to your training secrets. Not all coaches are quite comfortable with that, but you seem to be.
Look, are they secrets? Honestly, come on, I could sit down with both of you and we'd sit down and go, oh yeah, we do that. Or yeah, we do double thresholds. Or then we might do this. They're not secrets. And that's why I have no issue with people knowing what we're doing. Is how you put it all together and how you get the continuity of work. And then is how you build the confidence behind the work to allow the athlete to go and achieve. So it's not a question of hiding anything, because there's nothing to hide. But it's really just a question of the guys getting the work done and having that continuity of work and enjoying coming to work to get the work done. And then building on that enthusiasm for what they're doing to then, like with Rory, crikey, if he had his way, he'd want to race pretty much every week. But I cage him up. I say, you're not racing this week. We're going to wait and we're going to wait and we're going to wait. And then when he gets out there, he's so hungry to go and race that you get the types of performance you got at the weekend at Valencia. He was absolutely gagging to get out there and race. And that's what you want from your athletes. You don't want them to be going stale by doing too much. You want the right amount of training, the right chemistry, and then that hunger to go out and achieve. And I think that's what we're getting quite good at, is not necessarily over racing, but we're being sensible about how we approach things. But Oli, I've got no secrets. Crikey, I'm learning even now. I will look and read and listen, and occasionally I might plagiarize, because as coaches, we're constantly evolving. But then if you come down to the nuts and bolts of it, it's still very much old school. A lot of what's going on now was happening way back when I was there in 2004 onwards. There isn't much new. It's just, I would suppose, looking at things like taking lactate monitors, et cetera, people are being a little bit more precise with the science, but it's still old school with a bit of forward-thinking science behind it.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. And, Rory, on that exposure as well, you're someone who likes to be pretty vocal. The whole running British record, that was, you're vocal around that. You've been a little bit vocal around your targets this summer and trying to run that 27 flat. Do you have to be vocal to get excited and sort of really, I guess you're almost talking it into happening, right?
Yeah, I think sometimes it can work that way. I think sometimes maybe there's like a weird psychological like accountability of it, like put yourself out there a little bit at times. But no, I also think that like social media is just a tool. Like I think that a lot of people that are posting on socials and are doing things are kind of sometimes doing it almost as like formality at times. Sometimes I don't think they're any different. I think you have to have a presence, and you have to say that you are like shooting for certain goals and stuff, like obviously, which I am. And I think sometimes some people are interested in that. Other times, no one really is that bothered, and that's cool as well. But if you can go out there and back it up, sometimes it shows that you're an athlete who can kind of sometimes call their shots a little bit. But yeah, I think just not saying, like, I would never put anything out there that I didn't actually think I could do, because that's just, you know, a deliberate way of hanging yourself out to dry a little bit. And as you say, like with the 10K this year, like 27 flat entirely off the cards, but like a 27.15, like a 27.20, that isn't. But what that is at like 23 years of age is a massive, massive stepping stone towards running 27 flat. Like to run 27 flat, like that doesn't happen overnight. It won't happen overnight. I'm lucky that I've been injury free for, 5 years. And although I've not always been in the right setups for me in that last 5 years, I've been somewhat consistent with whatever I have been doing. And now that I'm in the right setup and things are really happening, it's just about being consistent in that. I genuinely believe that like a 27 flat in the next 3 years is a possibility. By the time that happens, the standard will be 26.40 anyway, so who cares? But like, yeah, I think at some point it'll be possible, but it's just about having the vision of you can do that in 3 years, and it makes everything that you're doing now a lot easier to just sort of tick off and look as stepping stones. I think it takes the pressure off massively. Like now, because I look at every race, like it's just another step in the right direction. I never overthink a day of training, a single race. I really don't. And I used to be stressing about every workout that I did. Like, how's this workout going to go? Where am I going to be? Am I fit? If a race went well or badly. Like, at Liverpool, right, was potentially my best race ever.
Do you agree with that, Andy?
No, look, seriously, look, Matt, you know, when you talk to one of your athletes early in the week before a big race, and you can hear in their voice and you know they're sick, you don't then say you're sick. You just ignore it and let the athlete deal with it. And look, I would agree, Rory, the way that you got yourself round Liverpool was, for me, was a joy. I know it wasn't a joy for you, but the way that it panned out, it just made everything worthwhile. But yeah, you had to dig. You had to dig like you've never done before to just hang in there. And I think, if we're honest, I think having Ellis in close proximity was just a bonus, because, that guy just pulled you round, didn't he?
Yeah, massively. No, like if it had been anyone else, it could have been curtains. So yeah, thank God for Ellis Cross, for sure. But yeah, so I think that's just another thing as well, where it was like, came fifth on the day knowing that things weren't 100%, but I wasn't like bothered. It's like you've got 2 weeks to get it right for Euro Cross, and like if I'm fortunate in my position with my contract that I can look at it long term as well, and I'm not like desperate to pop out the next big performance because I'm like contract's on the table, and I don't know if I'm going to be re-signed or that sort of stuff. So obviously those pressures come into play in some people's careers, of course, but I'm quite lucky with where I'm at now, where I can commit to just sort of plugging away.
Yeah. On that, you're obviously riding kind of a massive high, a massive kind of big wave right now that's obviously going really well for you. Talk about the group and how impactful that is upon them, because you've obviously got athletes in there, like Callum, I'm sure wouldn't mind me saying that he's kind of going through the opposite right now. And what's the effect like when people like yourselves are running well? Is that keeping him going, and then vice versa when it's the other way around?
Yeah, I'd say so. Actually, it's funny, we were having this conversation with Sarah the other day, and she was like, how is it that we can all get to the start line and run well? And I think and it's this thing of, I think you look across the board at everyone in the group, and like you say with Callum, he's had a really tough period. Scott's had a bit of a tough period recently as well. And so, but it's that belief of it's worth just getting through it, because that the results are like almost guaranteed at the other side as well, and that the system works. And the system is working for everyone. And that's the really important thing at the moment, and makes it a lot easier to believe in. And so, yeah, I think it's good. It makes everyone like really anxious and ready to get back going again. I know it like builds that hunger. You see your training partners running well, and you want to be back in that as soon as possible and ready to go, which those guys will be very soon. And they will also have those performances soon, whenever the time's right in this next cycle. They will have those performances as well, where they, even surprise themselves a little bit maybe. And yeah, and it's always kind of, it'll be worthwhile for those guys.
Andy, is that the same? As a coach, it must be quite difficult when you're balancing, you know, the success of Rory running that British record, and you got someone like Scott at home who's just kind of getting back on his feet again after a little blip and a little injury. You just got to keep him patient and keep him calm in that moment.
Yeah, but isn't that where you kind of earn your stripes as a coach? You know, it's not about one athlete. It's about all of the guys and girls are individuals, and I treat them as individuals. And you know, that kind of one-on-one conversations, they take place because you've got to keep the athletes motivated, more so when they're not perhaps, you know, as Rory's done at the weekend, you know, in the limelight. It's about having those conversations with Callum when he's having one of those days, you know, and keeping them motivated towards the next session. And, you know, for me, if I'm honest, it's very easy when your athlete is achieving and they're just turning up, ticking the boxes, doing the training, doing the performances. But you know, as Mark Rowland said to me years ago, you earn your stripes when your athletes aren't performing. That's when you really do become a coach, because that's when you really have to work and you have to keep the athlete motivated and have to still share the vision with them towards success. That's what coaching's about. It's not just turning up and giving a training session. It's about working one-on-one with the athlete to give them that belief and to give them that belief that they can go out and do superbly amazing things. And that's what it's all about.
Is there a particular way that you do that? Like, for example, with someone like Callum or Scott, that you show them the bigger picture?
Show them a better love. You know, it's Rory's experience that it's not the good times that make you. It's the times when things are hard, and you just take time to get to know the athlete and what helps them tick. And sometimes it's almost given that opportunity to reflect and realize that actually, okay, it's not quite happening at the moment, but I'm talented. I'm doing the right work. It will happen for me, to keep them turning up. You get an athlete who, you know, like Callum, who's very talented, Scott, who's very talented. They've got the talent, just need to give them the work, get them to turn up when everything is where it needs to be, and let them do what they're very good at, which is go out and perform.
On those performances then for this season, Rory, you mentioned you think 27 flat is almost impossible this year.
Sorry. Who said impossible?
I think Rory did.
Did you say impossible, Mr. Leonard?
We were backing him.
It's something along those lines.
Can I remind you of a conversation when we first started? Rory said to me when we first started, said, "Do you know what? I really think that under 23 10K road record is something I can get." All right. And we didn't get it for a manner of reasons, because just things took over. And I said, hold on a minute. And I said this to him after Valencia. I said, didn't you say you wanted to go for the under 23 record? What the bloody hell are you doing? You've just taken Mo Farah's record. What was this under 23 nonsense? Look, is it impossible? I honestly don't know at the moment. And I don't think you do either, Rory, because you're progressing, you're turning up, you're getting the work done. And, you know, we all know that, guys, all of you there's a day when you have that epiphany run, when everything just clicks and you get an extra 5 or 10%. And that's all it takes. And you go from being a 27-15-20 man, and you've just done 26-58. So I would not say impossible. I'm just saying, I think that's the target. The target is, because we know what the standards are, is to get to 27 and under. We're turning up. I think the boys and girls are talented. They're going to do the right work. Who knows, I think, rather than impossible.
I think we asked this because me and Lon were having this debate the other day. Like, right now, as an athlete and as a coach at this level, what's easier? Is it that 5K? Is it trying to attack that 13:01 just sheer because of the opportunities that you're going to be able to kind of give it a crack in the races? Or, you know, is 27 just it's kind of like you said, Andy, you need that one-off run to hit that time. So what will you go for this summer? Is the 5K looking likely for you? You're going to try and attack that in Tokyo, or go try for the 10?
Well, I think the nice position that I'm in is that, like, hey, if you go out and run 27:18, you're a bit off the rankings and you're not going to go to the World Championships for the 10K. You actually get a really amazing opportunity to get that 5K down and that 1500 down even. Like, that's pretty special. I mean, I'll be going to Boston next month, and, you know, we'll see between now and then exactly what sort of shape I'm in. But I suppose what you also don't have in the 10K is that magic track. You know, there isn't that race every single year. I mean, obviously there's California, that there is sound, but it's not quite like that Boston, right? Like that Boston 5K that has its name and its brand to it. And everyone goes there because they know that that's where they're probably going to be able to run pretty fast. And so, yeah, obviously I'll be going for that. And hey, I'm not sure on the day what I'll be able to run. I would like to, my PB right now is 13:29. And so for me to come out and say I'm going to run 13:01 is a nuts statement. What I would prefer to say is I'd like to get myself under 13:10. I think that's a really good stepping stone. And that's where I think I'm at and probably what I'd be able to do. And that's a great spot for me to be in, especially in the build up to Sound. And then, yeah, after Sound, we come back, we recover. You basically get 2 track seasons, which is actually kind of a blessing. And then you get yourself prepared for outdoors again. We'll head up to Font Romeu shortly after Sound 10K. And then, yeah, I'll take a pop at some fast 5Ks for sure. Because I think, there's definitely unexplored potential at the moment for me over 5K. And so I'm excited to kind of dip into that a bit further.
I mean, just building on what you said there, Rory, you know the plan. I mean, I've never hid this from the beginning. Look, Matt, Oli, I believe the guys need to be clipping along well over 1,500. I'd like to see Rory and the boys all down under 3:38, 37, 36 for 15. I want to see their 3K times down closer to 7:30. And then you all know that once you combine that type of pace with the strength, then you're looking at running a pretty wicked 5K. And so there's no rocket science behind it. It's just being a bit patient to do those things that you're not necessarily comfortable with. I know Rory finds it quite entertaining being on the start line of a 1,500, but it's nice to put you out of your comfort zone, because we all know if you're going to win 5Ks, if you're going to win 10K championship races, you've got to close bloody quick. So these sorts of things have to be practiced now, because in the bigger picture, there are things which are going to be very useful further down the line.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. And we're obviously wishing you all the best with chasing those. Just before we finish, we got a couple of listener questions that we got sent on Instagram. So I think they're mainly to you, Andy, to be fair. So sorry, Rory, about that. But first one was the...
I'm not telling you how old I am.
First one's about the use of easy to steadies and how they fit within your training, because here is a bit of a staple.
Yeah, it is. But the best person to answer that is Rory, because he'd not really done them before. So, okay. Rory, you explain to the guys what you get out of doing some easy to steady work within your training week, your cycle.
Yeah, so pretty much Tuesdays and Fridays, we have our sort of like 60 mins or 10 miles easy to steady. You usually average out at about 6-minute pace or quicker. And yeah, I think you get the first sort of 3.5, 4 miles of just warming into things, and then you end up running a little bit quicker. For me, I've found that actually like my biomechanics and form operate way more efficiently at sort of 6-minute mile pace. So I've actually seen a lot less kind of injury problems through that, because my natural biomechanics moving a little bit quicker are better. But then also it's a really like efficient fat burning and just below lactate threshold zone too. And so you are getting in like a tiny bit of lactate and you're like instantly flushing it out. And so you're able to get like a really nice bit of work in just below lactate threshold 1 even through the week. So, rather than having double threshold Wednesday, which we do have, and then, doubles on Saturday, you're also getting more quality work in Tuesday and Friday, which is pretty good. Also, like, running slow is actually quite boring, isn't it? So it's quite nice to have those kind of bits where you are allowed to sort of pick up a little bit more, in a kind of a disciplined way. Anyway, you get so dialed into that routine of doing it that it becomes natural as well. At the first, it's a bit daunting. I was actually looking back for some training logs at how Andy introduced it into my training. And it's kind of crazy how it went from what it was to the 10 easy to steady on a Tuesday and a Friday. Because when I first started being coached by Andy, he was setting these easy to steadies and in the day, and I was like, oh, that sounds pretty hard. Probably just going to leave that for like this week kind of thing. And then he started getting it in by, I think it was like a 30-minute easy run in the morning and then like a 25 easy to steady in the afternoon. I cannot remember when that changed from that to 10 miles easy to steady in the morning and like 45 minutes in the afternoon. But somehow it like slowly kind of, switched over quite smoothly, actually.
I think one of the big things, Andy, is that, well, when I caught up with you as well a little while ago, is like it hasn't really impacted sessions that much. I think this is where, a lot of people, and, when everyone started zone 2 started booming, everyone was like, oh yeah, you're going to get so much more out of your sessions. But actually, it sounds like you're still getting a lot out of your sessions.
No, and there's been a lot of documentation, a lot of research done into basically taking yourself through the various aerobic zones. There's much to be had going through the zones. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. Is how I look at it, and it's a bit of madness, but the boys and girls are enjoying their easy to steadies. It's almost like a t-shirt, don't you reckon? Maybe easy to steady.
Well, I know a lot of people are asking questions, catching on. It's going to be the double threshold of 2025, I think.
Well, it's also that or dropping into the madness.
There you go. And then just to finish, then question for you, Andy, was just around advice for a young coach who kind of who has aspirations of reaching the level you're at, but doing it, I guess, outside your traditional British athletics system, if you like.
Do you know what? Talk to people, read as much as you can read, and just don't limit your horizons. I did a lecture years ago for BMC, crikey, back in the day when I was a young coach, but I had Badders and he was just crossing over into world class. And they were talking about how once you get an athlete to a certain level, you have to hand them over to a world class coach. And I sort of threw it back at them and I said, well, why are you doing that? And they said, well, because I've not coached a world-class athlete. I said, well, not yet. But how are you going to learn how to coach a world-class athlete unless you don't coach one? And I threw it back at them and I said, well, who knows the athlete best, you or the person you're handing them over to? And they said, well, I've looked after them since they were 11, 12 years of age. And, here they are 19 and I'm handing them over. And I'm like, well, why don't you educate yourself? Why don't you expose yourself to the world-class environment so that you can continue to help that development to the world-class level? We all have to go there at some point. Yeah, I found it nerve-wracking when I was a young coach, and you're there, in the Olympic warm-up track, preparing your athlete to go out for the first round. But you have to experience it to realize what is required of it. And that's why I would say to be definitely young coaches, because we need more of them. And guys, Matt, Oli, you're the young coaches out there today. You're coming through, you're doing what you're doing in a supremely great way. It's about just keeping that development going and talking to people. I've never shied away from a conversation with someone. If they want to talk to me about training, talk to me about how to deal with certain things, happy to talk whenever. But you have to expose yourselves to it. And look, I'll be honest, one of the funniest things, I'm going to throw this out there because we had this conversation last time. When you're there at an Olympic warm-up track and you've got British athletics officials looking at you going, what's your athlete going to go and do? And you sort of say to them, well, look, they're ready. And they look, well, are you sure they're ready? And they said, you don't look nervous. And you kind of come back to them and say, well, hold on a minute, I'm not fucking running. It's all about the preparation and it's just all about the knowledge and it's all about learning and it's all about exposing yourself to that environment. The more you expose yourself to that environment, it becomes home. And you get used to and you realize that when you get to world-class athletics, it's quite a small arena, really. It's a very specialized area. But once you feel home there, it's a great place. And yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back there with these guys and girls and enjoying the journey.
It's a refreshing answer. But also, I think just to finish, what's refreshing with you guys is it's clear to see that you believe running 27 minutes is possible in the current setup that you've got. Would you say that? Or would you say, you're going to need more facilities and more support in order to reach that level?
No. It takes the right group, the right training, and every now and then, obviously, altitude is probably necessary, but we utilize it when we do. We don't overdo altitude. There's a purpose for it in the plan. But yeah, no, I completely believe it, and I'm actually quite grateful to be at doing the sport at a time where if you want to make a world champs, you have to be in the top 28 in the world, and you have to run 27 flat. I think that's quite cool because it's if you genuinely are somebody who wants to make it, in my mind, that's all I think about. It's well, you got to run 27 flat. It's that is the standard. That is what you have to do if you want to be world class and on that start line. And so, yeah, I think it's great because, hey, I'd love to walk away from my career with a PB under 27 minutes. And that might only be because, the time of running that I was in, the standards were so crazy and it was so deep that's just what you had to do.
Has anyone mentioned the marathon yet, no?
Well, when I spoke to you a while ago, Rory, the marathon was the LA was potentially the marathon, but it sounds like LA is going to be the 10,000, or maybe you're going to do a Hassan on us and try for both.
Hey, that would be good fun.
No, he's not giving us anything else in there.
Hey guys, look, I just want to say what you're doing with sport, with the podcast and everything is awesome.
Appreciate
As
it.
you guys know, whenever we see you out at races and stuff, we all love to chat and have the banter. I think it's very important for our sport that we continue doing this, because if we can encourage young people to carry on with the sport and enjoy our sport and achieve in our sport, we're doing a very good thing.
Absolutely.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it. Well, thank you both for coming on, and wish you all the best.
Cheers, guys. Have a good day.